Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavallaey. On today's episode, we will be doing a season preview of the Champions League, in particular previewing the Serie A teams following the Champions League draw. Can Antonio Conte break his European curse? Can Inter reach the Champions League final for a third time in 4 years and maybe win it this year? What can we expect from Juventus under Igor Tudor following last season's big disappointment in the Champions League? And also, what can we expect under Atalanta under Ivan Juric after Gasparini's long reign came to an end? We'll also be going through Roma and Bologna's chances in the Europa League, Fiorentina's chances in the Conference League, and offering our overall predictions for the big European competitions. And just as a little bonus at the end, we're going to talk about Italy in the World Cup playoffs because that is now virtual certainty. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week without any ads, including our free Monday review show, our weekly Q&A episode where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $3.99 a month. You can also watch our free episodes and shorter clips on YouTube, and if you can become a patron on YouTube memberships, if you go to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/@itafootpod, you can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify, and whichever platform you consume us on, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, we'd really appreciate if you give us a follow or subscribe to us, like us, give us a 5-star rating, whichever one's relevant, because by doing that, it really helps us to grow. And if you've not done already, do follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also on TikTok. Also, do you want to buy tickets for a Serie A match but don't know how? Well, Live Football Tickets is the best place to find Serie A tickets. Tickets are often available for as little as £25 and sometimes for even less. Buying from Live Football Tickets is totally secure, and they even offer a 150% refund guarantee on ticket authenticity. So if you want to watch Juventus, Inter, Milan, Napoli, or if you want to join Nima at a Pisa versus Lecce relegation dogfight, then Live Football Tickets is for you. To buy tickets to any Serie A match, simply follow the link in the description of this episode. Okay, let's get into today's show. Okay, so as we said, this episode will be mostly previewing the new Champions League season. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 10th of September, and the Champions League all kicks off on Tuesday, the 16th of September, and that will be match day 1. Of course, Champions League draw already done, so we know who all the Italian teams are playing. But just before we go through team by team and preview the chances of the Serie A sides, just a quick reminder of the Champions League format because it all changed last season. It's now a 36-team league phase. Every team plays 8 matches against 8 different opponents, 4 of those matches at home, 4 away, and then the top 8 from these 36 teams qualify for the last 16, which is the second knockout round. Then 9th to 24th inclusive qualify for the last 24, which is the first knockout round. 9th to 16th are seeded for that first knockout round draw. 17th to 24th are unseeded. The seeded team will play an unseeded team in a home and away tie with the seeded team away first and home for the second leg. Then there will be a home and away tie for the last 16 for the quarterfinal and the semi-final before a one-legged final. The teams who finish 25th to 36th in the league phase are eliminated from Europe altogether. They won't drop down to the Europa League like before this new format was introduced. And And that's what we're playing for. Just as a reminder, just so that you've got in mind when we discuss the Italian team's chances of what is needed to qualify, that the Opta supercomputer works out the percentage chance of qualifying for the last 60. Well, the last 8, but also the last 24. So to qualify for either the first knockout round or second knockout round immediately. So to qualify for the last 24, 9 points gives you a 69% chance. 10 points is the magic number, really. That gives you a 99% chance. So you're virtually certain of getting into the last 24 if you get 10 points. 11 points gives you a 100% chance. So really, to qualify for the next round, you're looking at 10 points. To qualify for the top 8, in which case you go to the second knockout round, you don't have to play an extra first knockout round. 16 points gives you a 98% chance of finishing the top 8. So 16 points is really the magic number in terms of finishing the top 8. 17 points gives you a 100% chance. You're absolutely guaranteed with 17 points. 15 points also gives you a chance, 73% chance. Although last year, if I remember correctly, everybody got 16 points that got through. So it wasn't enough last season. So again, 16 points is the magic number. If you get 14 points, you've got an very outside chance of 28% of getting through to the first knockout round. So second knockout round, I should say. So yeah, that's the format. That's how it all works. What we're going to do now is we're going to work down team by team the 4 Italian teams in the competition, who are, of course, Napoli, Inter, Atalanta, and Juventus. So we're going to start off, we're going to spend about 10 minutes on each team. So we'll start off with the champions of Italy, Napoli. First of all, I'll just go through all the basics. So the fixtures first for Napoli. Their 8 teams are, in order, Man City away, Sporting Lisbon at home, PSV away, Eintracht Frankfurt at home, Karabag at home, Benfica away, Copenhagen away, Chelsea at home. So let's talk about the fixtures first. What do you make of the draw that Napoli have got?
I think it's a decent draw. I mean, obviously, City and Chelsea are tough. The Premier League sides, and of course, Benfica away in the Stadium of Light is never an easy match. Sporting, I think, are weakened, so I think that's a good draw. PSV, Karabag, Copenhagen. I mean, no, I give Napoli a fairly good chance, just off the top of my head, to get somewhere between. Well, I think I'm asking of Napoli to get somewhere on around 12 to 15 minimum points, and then anything above that is a huge bonus, I think.
So you're thinking?
I'm thinking PSV, Karabag, Copenhagen, Sporting are the ones they have to win. Those are must-win games. That's 12 points. And if they can get a win against Eintracht Frankfurt at home or draw away to Benfica, that's 15-16. That should see them through, even if they lose to Chelsea and City.
I think, look, win the 3 easier home games, Sporting, Eintracht, Karabag, that's 9. You have to win away at Copenhagen, that's 12. And then,
PSV,
then your 3 tough games against City, Chelsea, and Benfica. If you can, maybe take something from there, it's a bonus. But to get yourself through, I think those are the 4. Those are the 4 matches. The first game, Kevin De Bruyne straight back to the Etihad to play against his City team. So that's going to be quite fascinating.
Lukaku. Hopefully, Lukaku. I don't know how long he's out, but I'm praying that he's back.
No, he's out the whole. He's not even been put in the squad, so he's not in the Champions League squad. Yeah. Well, that brings me onto the squad. So I'm not going to go through all the entire squad, but the big things to mention are that Lukaku is out injured for the whole of the group stages. He might be back for December. Yeah. What did I say? Group stages. Yeah. It doesn't feel right saying league phase. And the way they write it, Champions League phase, which is just league, which is just stupid. But anyway, Lukaku irritates me. Lukaku is out. They reckon he'll be back in December, but and actually the group stage doesn't end till the end of January, or the league phase doesn't end till the end of January. But they've decided to just leave him out for the whole league phase. Luca Marianucci and Pasquale Mazzocchi also didn't make the cut as well. But that's probably reflective of the kind of the deeper, stronger squad that Napoli have. Because there's no way those players would have been left out last year, because they didn't have enough players. But the probable 11, which should be coming up on your screen soon, it kind of depends really, because Antonio Conte started the season with the kind of like all the players from last season, plus Kevin De Bruyne, plus Lorenzo Luca, because it's been enforced through Lukaku's injury. So really, I think we're looking at, to start with, when everybody's fit, obviously not including Lukaku, we're looking at Meret in goal, Di Lorenzo on the right back, Oliveira left back, Buongiorno and Rachmani, although he's got an injury, is centre backs, and then in midfield it's kind of like a 4-4-1-1. So he's playing 4 central midfielders. McTominay more to the left, then De Bruyne, Lobotka, and Anguissa, and then Politano from the right, and then up front you're looking at Lorenzo Luca or Rasmus Højlund up front. So that's kind of how we start. But as the season goes on, we're going to see, we hope, a bit of rotation from Conte for once. But you've got Boykema that's going to be pushing for a centre back berth. You've got you've got Højlund versus Luca up front. You've got Noah Lang. You've got the Spanish left back from Girona, Gutierrez. So you've got some players there that are going to be fighting for spots in the team.
Yeah, look, I think that's pretty much the starting lineup. I mean, when the strongest is, but then again, I think Conte is going to actually rotate quite a bit this season. I think we saw it last year when he was forced to do it, that he was actually very good. Not just, as I keep saying, one of the things that Conte has been criticized for his entire career is that he's too rigid, he's too system-based, he doesn't have a plan B and so on. Well, last year with Napoli, when they won the league, we saw a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. This is something new with Conte. And I think, he has his identity, but he's much more flexible in how he gets his players to express that identity. And that's something that we've not seen with him before. And that's why I think that we might actually be in a position now with Antonio Conte's career. I think we're hitting his peak, his second peak, but his real, like when we sum his career up, this will be his big golden era. I mean, I remember last season when he spoke about how he left Inter and Juve too soon. This is a Conte who's been soul searching and reflecting, and so the fact that he decided to stay at Napoli, he got the guarantees he wanted, he got the players he wanted, and he feels that the job's not done having won the Scudetto, which is really interesting because, okay, opening up a winning cycle at Napoli, that's historic. Doing something in Europe, I'm not saying they're going to win the Champions League by any stretch of the imagination, but to do something by maybe equating what Spalletti did, which would be equaling the club record, and what I think, going one further to the semi-final. That would be a huge achievement, because if we're perfectly honest, the attacking prowess of that side is not Final Four.
Well, that brings us on nicely to talk about the strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. So starting with the strengths, we've mentioned there about Antonio Conte. Of course, Antonio Conte is a big strength. There's not many. It didn't used to be like this, but the other Italian teams, certainly now, none of the other 3 teams have an international level coach of this magnitude, and Napoli have that. That's despite Conte having a very bad record in the Champions League. But if you put that aside, Conte is, in terms of reputation, in terms of ability, in terms of quality, Conte is a world-class manager. So that has to go down as a strength. Of course,
he's one of the best managers in this competition. I mean, there's not very many that are better than him.
Yeah, but we'll come on to the weaknesses about him in a minute. But that is on paper, that is a strength. Then I think that actually Napoli have decent experience. If you look through their team, even though, we were saying last season, I remember before they had this great transfer market, we were saying that this Napoli team it's not. This is just Napoli going to try and win the Scudetto as the kind of like the last mark for this team before they're too old. Napoli have done a really great job of kind of sort of like transitioning the team with younger players while not throwing it all away what they've already got in terms of experience. So I think they have experience. They've got lots of experience. They've got players that won 2 championships. They've got, players that played at the top level, De Bruyne, Lukaku, Lobotka, Anguissa, lots and lots of experience throughout the team. Di Lorenzo is packed full of experience. So I think that is good. And I think that the midfield, I think, is one of the better midfields in Europe. I'm not saying it's the best, it's not, but it's one of the better midfields in Europe.
And it's an Antonio Conte midfield. It's a midfield suited to him. I'm just a little bit curious to see how he jigsaws, how it works, the De Bruyne, McTominay, Anguissa, Lobotka, Politano, how he gets them all working together in Europe and how that looks, if should all of them play, that is.
Yeah. I mean, De Bruyne is obviously, the added value for this team, and if I think he's had a pretty good start to the season, and so De Bruyne can add something extra to what already was the best midfield it is the best midfield in Italy. I think there's no doubt about that. This is the best midfield in Italy.
I think Inter is. I think that maybe even with Çalhanoğlu's decline and Mkhitaryan where he is, I still think Inter. I think Inter is just slightly better in midfield.
Really?
But that's I think Barella and Sucic and I think the depth and all that. I think Inter in terms of quality on paper, that is. But then again, it's also about getting it to work on the pitch. But Napoli have one of the top midfields in its Serie A. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and then the defense, of course, we know Antonio Conte knows how to set up a defense, and that will be important, especially when you go away from home, not just against the big teams, but against the smaller teams as well. We've seen ridiculously, last season with the likes of Juventus and Atalanta in particular, those teams just, not being able to cope in like hostile environments at medium-sized European teams.
Crumbling.
And PSV and crumbling under that pressure. You need players, they need characters. And I think they have characters, they have leaders, they have physical, strength. So I think there's a good blend there in this Napoli team.
I do. I just want to highlight 2 players or 3 players. I think Bokema is going to be very important for them. I think he needs to have a good campaign. It's the first time I think he plays at this level, if I'm not mistaken, unless he's played in them before he joined Napoli, but I'm not entirely sure. Politano's turned out
Bologna last season.
Yeah, but before Bologna, he's not a Bologna product, is he? I mean, if he, I can't remember if he played in Champions League before. But regardless, Bokema's going to be important. Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, I'm not entirely sure Meret is a starting goalkeeper. I think we could see a situation where Vanja Milinkovic-Savic overtakes that number 1 spot. And I think, we know he's good aerially, he's good, he penalty saves, he's brilliant. He's a character player. And of course, Matteo Politano, who I think has, really grown under first Spalletti, but certainly under Conte. He's become one of those players that is a leader. He sacrifices himself for the team. And finally, Neres. Neres needs to take that step. If at the top European level, if he showed glimpses of it last season, but this season I think we need to see much more consistently, both in terms of fitness, but above all on the pitch qualitatively, and of course in the Champions League.
I think what's good about
I do like Elmas as well. I like that he can be this kind of.
Well, we were talking about Conte being able to change formation. I think they've got so much depth now, but also different types of players that can allow him to adapt that system and play on the front foot, play on the back foot. Neres is the perfect player to play on the back foot, where you can counter attack with his incredible pace. It just shows that Conte is trying to, expand his game and show new dimensions to his game. And I think Milinkovic-Savic is the best example of that. Milinkovic-Savic is absolutely brilliant with the ball at his feet, fantastic at constructing the play with his feet. Meret is not. Meret is terrible with his feet. So maybe that Milinkovic-Savic is Antonio Conte saying, you know what? Maybe in order to challenge the best teams, or maybe in Europe, maybe we need that extra dimension of having a goalkeeper that can create an extra man. I don't know, so that distribution. So So
Well, it makes it more difficult to press, doesn't it? When you have someone when you can build like that, as we saw with Onana.
As for weaknesses, as for weaknesses, listen. First of all, we have to talk about Antonio Conte. His strength is also his weakness, and the record speaks for himself. We can't just ignore that. If he's failed consistently his entire career, and he's the age of 56 now, and his entire career he's failed in the Champions League, it's not down to luck or coincidence. No. It's because it's something he's not doing right. And the reason has been partly the tactical rigidity, which he seems to have been addressing, but also his inability, I think, to rotate and manage probably the physical fitness side of things, training side of things, preparation side of things when you're playing twice a week, how to manage that so that you're in optimal physical shape, but also prepared in all ways, tactical, technical, everything. He hasn't been able to do that. So that is what he's going to have to...
Well, it's a question mark, and it has to be a weakness, given his track record. And I think, of course, as always, as you said, Lukaku, his injury is going to be a weakness as well.
Yeah, and I think, as you already mentioned before, the attack is definitely a lot weaker than the top Champions League teams. There's no doubt about that, and even more so without Lukaku. When your attack is Luka, Højlund, Politano, Noah Lang, that's way off the top Champions League team. No, so that is definitely a weakness. But prediction.
I've said it on the Serie A prediction and so on. I think Napoli are the Serie A team that goes the farthest in the Champions League, and I think they could make a semi-final. I really think so. I think there's absolutely a possibility of that.
Yeah, I'm going to go quarter-final, but look, with a bit of luck of the draw, who knows? Maybe a semi-final could be possible. A bit of luck with the draw, a bit of luck with injuries, both for them and for whoever their opponents may be. You just don't know. You just don't know. But
I'm going to be honest. I have Napoli as my dark horse this season in the Champions League, together with other teams. But I really do. I think Napoli, because of the Conte factor, because of how he is, where he is, how he seems to approach games, and how he approaches everything. It's a different Conte. It's a much more mature Conte. And I think that's something that I've always been critical of him before in the past. I think now I do think they can surprise teams. And I think if he were to do that, then, if they were to go to a final, and God, if they were to win it even, I think
that's unrealistic, because generally...
It's very unrealistic.
It's very unrealistic. It's unrealistic to think that a team that's only been to one quarterfinal their entire history to suddenly just then go all the way and win it. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. But it's a knockout tournament. You never know. And they have, you need to have a strong goalkeeper who's good at penalties. They do have that in Vanja Milinkovic-Savic if they can stay fit. If Lukaku can, they need to have almost like it kind of ties together with what you said about Conte being able to manage 3 games a week, rotate, training, the workload between matches 3 times a week, training, rotating. I think he'll be able to do that this season.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Inter now. So Inter, of course, Champions League finalists last season, twice in 3 years. Unfortunately, it ended in probably a night that every Inter fan, of course, will want to forget. The fixtures for Inter are, it's 2 halves, really. There's 4 easy games to start with, and then 4 really, really hard games to end with. So it's Ajax away, Slavia Prague at home, Union SG away, Kairat Almaty home, Atletico Madrid away, Liverpool home, Arsenal home, Borussia Dortmund away. So it's the Inter should win their first 4 games comfortably, get up to 12 points, get through, and then it's up to trying to get 4 points from the last 4 games in order to try and finish in the top 8 like they did last season, right?
Well, that's kind of where the way they view it. Yes, already when Ajax away is not easy in terms of, it's Ajax away. But yes, the quality on the pitch, regardless of who's the manager, does dictate that the pressure is on from the first minute. They have to beat Ajax, Slavia Prague, Union, and Kairat Almaty in 12 points, and then they're in the top 24. But then from then on, to go to Wanda Metropolitana, Anfield, Emirates, and Westfalenstadion and try to get 3 points there. I'm not entirely sure they'll be able to do that. Maybe 1 or 2 draws, but other than that, I don't expect them to be able to win any of those games. I mean, maybe a Liverpool, maybe a Borussia Dortmund away, but we've seen Borussia Dortmund these past few years. They're not easy. They're no pushovers. They're no mugs by any stretch of the imagination. So this is a difficult draw. It really is.
Yeah, I remember having the same argument with an Inter fan friend last season about this, and I argued then it's always better to get 4 easy games and then 4 ridiculously hard games than get, let's say, 1 easy game and then like 5 like medium teams and then 2 tough teams or something like that, because if you're in bad form or you're playing badly or you can suddenly be under a lot of pressure to get through, and every game there's no pushover. So I actually think it's quite a good draw as long as Inter beat the teams at the start. I think it puts them in a good position and takes the pressure off them that they can then go for that top 8 again. So I actually think it's a decent draw. It would have been worse if it was the other way around. Like the fixtures, if they'd had those first 4 fixtures first, then yes, I would say, oh my God, then they're under pressure. But I think they should be. I think they'll definitely be fine to finish in the top 24. I think there's no.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. 24 for sure, but it's whether or not they can finish in the top 8, and I'm not entirely sure they can.
Yeah, we'll see. As for the squad, I mean, again, I'm not going to read out the squad, but there's only one player that's been left out, and that is Thomas Palacios, who seemed to refuse a transfer to every single club this summer. Probable 11, right? Probable 11 is going to go up on your screen. Nima, do you want to tell everyone what you think the probable 11 is and where the kind of ballotages are between the kind of like the first choice 11? It's going to be a 3-5-2. Sorry.
Well, that's what we expect, but now already there's reports that Kivu's considering a back 4, and which is very worrying. But yeah, 3-5-2 is what we expect. Jan Sommer in goal, Bastoni. Then whether it's Acerbi, De Vrij, or Akanji, or Bisek even, and then Akanji to the right, Bisek to the right, or even De Vrij to the right with Acerbi in the middle. The defense is a question mark for Inter. Di Marco on the left. I mean, of course, you got Carlos Augusto as well, who can play as a left centre back. You got Di Marco on the left. You got Denzel Dumfries on the right. Luis Enrique backing him up there. In the middle of the pitch, you have 2 players that there are big question marks around. One is Mkhitaryan. It looks like it's going to be his last season in football. He's openly talking about hanging up his boots at the end of the season. Çalhanoğlu's form or qualitative dip, whichever you want to have it. I'm leaning more to a qualitative dip than it just being bad form last season. Those 2 are big question marks. Davide Fratesi, how will he be used? Barella and Sucic, I think, are guarantees, but there are question marks on how he will formate his attack, his midfield, and then of course up front you have 4 players who, Thuram, Lautaro will most likely start, but Pio Esposito and Boni will definitely feature as well.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the probable 11. Strengths and weaknesses. Now, strengths. First of all, experience. Experience in the Champions League is so important. It really is. Like, it can, just by having that experience, even if you haven't been playing well in the league, or you're not in good form, or even if some of your players are maybe declining a little bit, it does. Is a cliche, but it does count.
We've seen it before,
and it does take you even into last season where they looked physically, exhausted, and it took them through. Like that Barcelona team, qualitatively, was a better team than Inter, and looked the team like it should win. But Inter's experience and know-how and the inexperience of Barcelona in those last closing seconds where they just need to hold the ball and just be solid, and they pushed up looking for an extra goal, and then they got caught out and they equalised and they went to extra time. Like, those things count, and Inter have that. In fact, you could even argue that Inter have the most experience of anyone in the Champions League. 2 finals in 3 years, so that experience will count for a lot. I think that in addition to that, I mean, maybe you can answer this. What do you think the hunger is going to be like? Because last season, there was a great hunger to win that Champions League. They really wanted to win it. It was like an obsession. Having lost a second final in 3 years, is it going to be a case now of just like the wind has all come out of the sails now, and it's just like, oh, we're never going to win it now, like that, having lost in that fashion? Or is that hunger still going to remain? That Inter is still going to be like, we really want to win this competition, we can still win it?
No, I think the experienced players, the Thurams, the Barellas, the Dumfries, the Lautaros, all these guys, they want to win the Champions League. The hunger I'm not worried about. The in the Champions League, I mean, you know, like you said, a cliche. I mean, we saw it back in the day when towards the, you know, when Berlusconi was at Milan, you saw the Pirlos and the Nestas and the, you know, these guys really came to light when it was the Champions League because they wanted to show, but they couldn't do it over the course of the season in the Serie A. I think without any other comparisons, because age-wise, that Milan team, the key players were older, they think the team isn't. That's a factor. They've won everything in Italy. They've done it, and they've done it repeatedly. It's the crowning moment in Europe's top competition that is missing. So the hunger will still be there. And I think the firepower and the attacking depth they have is very good. There are question marks elsewhere, of course, which I'm sure we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, I think the attacking options is definitely a strength for Inter. For me, that was not just in the Champions League, but in Serie A last season was the weakness of the depth in attack. It was 2 top-class attackers, albeit one of them was clearly now we must have been struggling with some kind of injury or something for the second half of the season in Thuram. So he was way off it in the second half. So Inter were basically 2 top-class attackers and nothing to back them up at all, which you need. And now they've got that this season, potentially. They're young, but Boni, Pio Esposito, potentially they have the ability to be really useful options in attack. So that's great. So yeah, I think that's I think those are the strengths. The weaknesses, the first is obvious. It's an inexperienced coach. It's a question mark with the coach because he's so inexperienced. How much does that play into everything?
Huge question mark around Christian Chivu. And the fact that is he ready to even be at Inter, let alone be able to guide Inter between the Serie A and the Champions League, playing thrice a week? The defense is a huge question mark. Acerbi looked like he was on his last legs already last season. Well, he's a year older now. Manuel Akanji has peaked. He's not the player he once was when he joined Manchester City. There is a question mark there. Stefan De Vrij, 1 year older. Bastoni and Augusto, I'm not worried about, but Jan Bisek, I am worried about. He, you want to do the typical Prem face bingo. He definitely has a mistake in him. Like every time you watch him play, he's got a mistake in him. But can he take that step that he was unable to do last season? Can he do that and surprise people? Chivu's, if one thing we do know about Chivu is that he's good with young players. So there is that. I think then those are the main weaknesses for me.
Yeah, the defense. I mean, I guess we've spoken about the defense there already. Definitely, we saw at the end of last season how many goals Inter shipped in the closing stages of the season when they played against top teams. And yes, some of that could have been down to tiredness, exhaustion, too many games. But it's also down to the fact that it's an aging defence. It's a defence that is getting slower, that can't cope with as much as well with the fast pace of some of these top European teams, Premier League teams, Barcelona, PSG in the final, that play at a different speed. As one of the, I remember which Inter player was it that said in the final that PSG were playing at a different speed to them. So yeah, that is a worry, the defence, and also the lack of dribblers and lack of pace in the Inter team in general, which is something that has been addressed ever so slightly with like the signings of Boni, for example, Luis Enrique, even though he's probably not the best player. But, I think at the beginning of the market, it seemed like this was something that Inter wanted to address. You could see strategically they wanted to address this issue that they had of a lack of pace and lack of dribblers. And that's why they also went after Lookman, somebody that was physically had the ability to beat his man. But then they didn't continue it through the market. And as we are now at the beginning of the season, I still think that there's not enough pace throughout the team and there's not enough dribblers, enough players that can eliminate their man in this Inter team. Maybe, I guess it's also down to the system. Wingers. I mean, that's the system. Okay, they've got a different system. But having wingers, I think it's a useful weapon to have if you want to change around. If you want to move, tweak to a different system, have a plan B, go with play wingers. Inter don't have that ability to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be an issue, but I think it's good to have that option. I mean, Napoli have that option, for example. Even Juventus have that option. They can go to a winger system if they want to in a game. They need to change. So I think that I think Inter are still lacking some certain attributes and qualities in the team collectively and among their individuals. And I think that can stop them being, let's say, the complete team. I think so. That I would have as a weakness as well.
I agree with that. There's far too lack of pace. I think there's only 2 players who've got like explosive pace, 2-3 players, and the lack of dribblers as well. I think 1 or 2, like they have 2-3 dribblers really who can beat their man. Rather, Luis Enrique was supposedly supposed to do that, but there's a huge question mark around him. Mainly because he was brought in because when Inter was supposed to play a 3-4-2-1, and that's why they also brought in Zalewski, and they were going to keep that, and then they didn't get Lookman, and they binned that and sold Zalewski. So the question is, what now with Luis Enrique? Can he play as that 3-5-2 to the right, and give Denzel Dumfries a run for his money in terms of starting? Will Denzel Dumfries be able to be as decisive as he's been under Inzaghi? Because again, it's not just one of the weaknesses is not just the inexperienced coach. It's the fact that Simone Inzaghi, Antonio Conte, Luciano Spalletti were system coaches who got the best out of the players available to them. When at Inter, I'm not entirely sure what if that's the case. With Christian Kivu, I'm of the opinion that players like Di Marco, Dumfries, Çalhanoğlu as well, another one, regardless of if he has a decline or not, will they be penalized by no longer having Simone Inzaghi there? I'm of the opinion that could very much be the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a question mark, isn't it? Sometimes that's one of the most fascinating things in football. Sometimes you do wonder, is a team or a player in particular, are they as good as they look, or is it the manager making them look good?
Yeah,
and you can flip that the other way. You can flip that the other way as well. Is a player as bad as they look, or is it because of the club, the environment, the manager? And that brings me on nicely actually to something I was going to get your opinion on at the end of this segment. I'll ask you now, and then I'll get your prediction of where you think Inter will finish. I want to, because this segues in perfectly to André Onana. André Onana is joining Trabzonspor on loan from Manchester United 2 seasons after he was the best goalkeeper in the Champions League, as Inter got to the final when they lost to Manchester City. Incredible season he had for Inter in the Champions League anyway. And it's unbelievable. 2 years on, 2 disastrous seasons for Man United, and to go to Trabzonspor after 2 years. I mean, tell me, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's all, his. It's exactly that. Simone Inzaghi had a system where he was perfect. Let's remember what happened that summer. They wanted Bremer, that exploded in their face. They didn't get Bremer. They got Acerbi, which meant they couldn't play with a high defensive line. But he brought in Onana, which allowed Inter to be more press resistant. And Guardiola confirmed as much in many interviews after that game, that we didn't press Inter as high up because André Onana is so bloody good with the ball at his feet that we knew that he would beat our press if we did. So I think, as in terms of shot stoppers go, Onana is decent, but I think it was the Inzaghi system that got the best out of him. And let's remember that season was also when Acerbi was really at his career best, again, in the Inzaghi system. Di Marco, another one. So I think we're on that.
Is Onana, okay, you said it from the Inter side. Is Onana as bad as we've seen at Manchester United?
No.
Because he's not the only, let's be honest, Onana is not the only player at Manchester United who's been a complete flop, but elsewhere has been fantastic. Onana was fantastic at Inter, flop at United. Scott McTominay was good at United. I'm not saying he was bad, but at Napoli, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And, there are other examples as well of players from Manchester United in recent years who have just died. They've just gone to United and they've completely died.
Well, it's not just players, it's also managers. Louis van Gaal, Erik ten Hag, Jose Mourinho.
Amorim now.
Yeah, Amorim. It can't only be the managers. It can't only be the players. There is something's foul in the land of in the house of Man United, and I don't think it's just the players or the managers. I think it's something else more than that. And I think so. For me, I think it's
poison there. Something's poison there.
Something poison.
They need like the curse of Benfica, where they preyed on. Eusebio prayed at the grave of Bela Gutmann, the old Benfica coach, who supposedly put a curse on Benfica that they would never win. They would never win.
I think it was always going to be difficult when Ferguson left, an iconic, and he was a institution at Manchester United. But the manner in which this was handled, his exit, was handled very poorly. Not just by the club. I think Roy Keane, even though him and Sir Alex don't get along, I do think Roy Keane made a really good point about how Sir Alex Ferguson always said he did what's best for Manchester United. Well, is that actually really true? I'm not sure that the manner in which he left, where he picked his successor, was the right thing to do. There's lots of things to say that I think that Fergie did not exactly leave his predecessor with a big chance. But then after Moise was sacked and Mourinho was brought in and they finished second and they won a couple of trophies, the problem in Man United was much more deeper than that. There was no structure. There was nothing in place. And I think we've seen that since. It's just player after player after manager. It's a mess. And this is where we are now.
Yeah, so it's incredible where Onana, what's happened to him. So let's get a prediction of Inter then. Where are they going to finish this season?
I don't even think they make the quarterfinals. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they reached around a 16 and they're not, and then they're going to play a seeded team and then that's it. Mm-hmm. I think they'll get to the 24. I think they should finish 9, 10, 11, somewhere like that. So they get seeded and then they should be able to see off whoever, depending on the draw. But after that, I don't see them doing that. Not as long as Christian Kiewel was there. I'm sorry, but I just don't think he has what it takes. To take Inter in a Champions League, hangover after last season, and the ghost of Inzaghi, Conte, Spalletti kind of hovering over the club, and there's so many question marks around Inter. I don't think that Kiewel can do it, and I don't think he's been given the tools to do it either. I really want to accentuate this. This isn't criticism of Kiewel at all. This is criticism of Marotta and the people who hired Christian Kiewel. So I think round of 16, maybe quarterfinal, but that would be almost an overachievement if you ask me. Given
I think last 16 or quarterfinal for me. I think maximum quarterfinal. Yeah, I can't. Listen. There's always a possibility with a good draw that you can go and a bit of luck. So you never say never, but I think that. Yeah, realistically, I think 9 times out of 10, if they played this season, I think maximum quarterfinal between last 16 and quarterfinal is where I see Inter going this season. Let's move on to Atalanta now. Atalanta, of course, with a new manager. Ivan Juric, a new era. Lost some important players. Well, lost Retegui anyway. This summer, the big kind of scandal controversy with Ademola Lookman, who's ended up staying. So first of all, the draw: PSG away, Club Brugge home, Slavia Prague home, Marseille away, Frankfurt away, Chelsea home, Athletic Bilbao home, Union SG away. What do you make of that draw?
I think that's a good draw. Club Brugge, Union SG, Slavia Prague, they should be able to win that, and especially Club Brugge, given what happened last season, they'll be coming for revenge. So I see 9 points there. Marseille away at the Stade Velodrome is it's very hard. PSG and Chelsea equally. Athletic Bilbao should be able to get something from that, and Frankfurt away. I mean, we know how Atalanta play, and we know how they usually are able to get these results because of how they play. But of course, Gasperini isn't there. Juric is there, even though he's the Gasperini disciple. He is much more defensively balanced, and so no, I think top 24 for sure. Maybe even outside chance top 8. I'd say.
Okay, that's very, very ambitious. Well, I'll come to my prediction at the end. But first of all, the squad. Mitchell Bakker is out. That's the only one of note. He's had an injury. But Ademola Lookman is in after everything that happened in the summer. I'll just go for the probable 11. So probable 11, we've got Carnesecchi in goal, Scalvini, Isaac Kean, and Jim City. Probably the 3 starting centre-backs. Belanova and Zalewski, wing back, Ederson and Darun, centre mids, and then assuming he's reintegrated, everything's okay, De Ketelaere and Lookman behind Scamacca up front. So that's your probable 11, your probable strongest starting 11. In terms of strengths and weaknesses, we'll start with the strengths. The recent record in Europe is actually pretty good if you remove last season, which was obviously, well, even last season, Atalanta played an absolutely outstanding group stage where they were brilliant throughout the group stage, and they deserved to finish in the top 8. It was really a big injustice they didn't finish in the top 8. I remember a game against Celtic where they had about 30 shots and they couldn't score. They played a game against Arsenal where they were the better team. They missed a penalty. Retegui missed a penalty, in which they drew. And then they drew with, I think, Barcelona away at Camp Nou as well. They played an absolutely fantastic group stage, and they just about missed out by like a point of getting in the top 8. And then they played Club Brugge in the last 32 and just had a shocking tie against them. Also got cheated by the referee in the first leg, which cost them a lot of defeat, which they never recovered from, with the worst penalty award you'll ever see. Proper like anti-Italian discrimination moment that was. So if you eliminate that kind of just that blackout against Club Brugge, their recent record in Europe is actually good. Last season, group stage or league phase, winning the Europa League fantastically the season before, and even in the other years they're always dangerous. So. But obviously that's under Gasperini. But if you look at their actual recent record, the experience this squad and these players have built up in Europe, they do have some things going for them. They do have a decent, again, experience, track record does count for something in the Champions League. So I'm hoping that can be a strength. And also, like you said, I think they actually got, from what they could have got, a decent draw in that league phase. So I think they can hopefully take something from that as well.
Agreed. I think Lookman being included is a big thing. I think it means that they will try to reintegrate him, and he will try to. I think at the end of the day, after everything that happened, now's the time to leave all that behind and move forward and try to do something. And I think Lookman and Atalanta realize that they need to sort this out, and they need to, for both of their sakes. And otherwise, this could be very, 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 very messy, even messier than we've seen. this summer, which was just ridiculous, to be honest. But look, I think with Juric, who is much more defensively solid, I think they won't concede as much. I do expect them to press as much as intensely as they have before. I think Zalewski, Samardzic will be important. De Ketteler as well, and I think having a goal poacher in Kristovic is going to be important when he comes on. But again, Scamacca, his fitness. I mean, he pulled out of Italy with an injury. Where is he? He scored, but where is he physically? There's a huge question mark around Scamacca. I think the talent is not up for debate, but it's again, can he come back from that ACL? Huge question mark.
Yeah, I think that, listen, everybody that listens to the show, no, we disagree on Juric. I think whether you like him or not, it's a downgrade. There's no doubt about it. It's a downgrade from Gasperini to Juric. What Gasperini has done, his track record over so many years, what Juric has done in his career is just small clubs, and he didn't quite do it. Well, he didn't do it last season when he was at a bigger club at Roma, albeit in a difficult situation, and then obviously a disaster at Southampton. But in terms of proof, it's on paper it's a downgrade. The players also, if you look at the starting 11 or the squad and starting 11 this season compared to last season, they've downgraded there as well. So if they are to do badly, I'm not going to sit here and blame it all on Juric, because I think that they didn't have a good transfer window, Atalanta. I look at kind of like the weaknesses that I was critical of last season. Well, one of them was they didn't have a backup for Retegui in attack, because obviously Scamacca was out. This season, they actually do have two strikers. So, okay, I guess you could address them. Whether they end up being good enough, that's for another question. But they've got the backup there. But they did not get a backup for Ederson in centre midfield, which they were already missing last season. And we saw last season, as soon as Ederson was out, we saw how much that they fell off. And already at the beginning of this season, Ederson was out for the first Serie A games. And certainly in that second game against Parma, we saw the midfield really suffer and actually get, with the second best maybe in midfield in that game. So you're relying on Ederson being fit all the time. And, Darun is getting a bit older now. Okay, Musa's come in, we'll see. But is he a top level? So central midfield, I think I have a bit of a debate, and I think the defense will be improved collectively and structurally by Juric, but there's still, I think, probably still some question marks there a little bit as well. I really hope that Scalvini though can kind of stay fit and push on, because I think that would be heartbreaking if he was to not push on and be the same player after what happened with his ACL. And then the other thing is, of course, Lookman. It has to be the big question, is Ademola Lookman. Like, when he's reintegrated, which he is, he's now like back in training and everything. Even if he starts playing, like, is his heart going to be fully in it, consciously, subconsciously? How does he get treated by the fans, his teammates? It's a big question mark, isn't it? So
huge question mark, and it leaves Juric in a situation. It's another mess he didn't need, which he has to clean up. It's a little bit like we were speaking just about how Man United after Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm not making any comparison between Sir Alex and Gasperini, but we're all talking about the most successful coach in Atalanta's history. He's a reference point in Atalanta's history. He made them into. It was under him where they grew in stature. And that's never going to be easy. But the club certainly did not help Juric for this transition in life after Gasperini. I do think
I agree. I agree. I don't think the transfer window was very good for it. But also, again, comes back to what we were saying, like we were discussing what we'll find out with Inzaghi, with the Inter players. We're going to find out also with the Atalanta players, are some of these players, did they look better than they were because of Gasperini? We're going to find out. Or was it Gasperini? Was it the whole setup at Atalanta which helps cultivate in these places? It wasn't just Gasperini, it's everything. it's the club, it's the training, it's the coaches, the youth coaches, the
everything.
Everything. So it's always going to be a question mark on that. I can just say that I didn't like the transfer market, didn't like the transfer window this summer. I don't think that they've improved. I think they've gone back. They've downgraded, if anything, this summer. Prediction though.
Last 24. They should make the last 24. If they don't, it's a disaster. They definitely are good enough to finish in the last 24. Question is, top 8. I think it would be an overachievement. I think it would be an overachievement if they made top 8. I think it would be a huge overachievement.
Oh yeah, I can't see a last 8. That's for sure. I think that given the draw that they've got, I wasn't that confident of even qualification. I thought it was in the balance, but then when the draw was made, they've got a pretty good draw. So now I think that last 24, they should be able to do that. Get in the last 24, should be able to get 10 points from these games. But then once they get to the knockout round, I'm not sure whether they go past that first knockout. I think it will depend on the draw, depend on who they meet in that draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think last 24. I mean, I think, I just don't. I can't see them getting past. I think, that playoff round is where what we can ask of them, and then anything after that is an overachievement, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just making a note here. Let's move on to the final Italian team, Juventus, who had a disaster last season in the Champions League throughout the group stage, really, and obviously into the knockout round when they got knocked out by PSV. Fixtures, first of all. So they have Villarreal away, Real Madrid away, Sporting at home, Bodo Glimt away, Paphos at home, Benfica at home, and Monaco away. And I've missed one of them because I've written down they're playing Juventus at home in the first game. So who are Juventus playing in the first game of the Champions League? Can you check?
Dortmund. Aren't they playing Dortmund? Yeah. It's Dortmund, Villarreal, Real Madrid, Sporting, Bodo Glimt, Paphos.
Benfica, Monaco.
Benfica,
right.
Yeah,
okay. Fine. Okay. First of all, the draw. It's, you know what? I would compare this draw to last year in that, apart from Real Madrid away, there's no real big, massive guns in there, and it was similar. This was similar last season, but at the same time, if you take away kind of Bodo Glimt and Paphos, the rest of them are all tricky games where you have to be on it to beat these teams. That you can fail to beat or lose all those other matches. So really, I'm going to say the same thing that I said with Juventus last season. Like, people will look at that and just think, oh, look at them. They've got no hard games there. They've only got Real Madrid away. They should easy. It's not as easy. I would rather have the Inter draw where you've got 4 gimmies and then you can try and get the points you need than this. Because every game, other than 6 of the games are going to be, you have to play for them. You can't rest and rotate or relax. So overall, I think that Juventus should with this draw should be getting into the top 24. Will they get into the top 8? No, I don't see them getting into the top 8, and that's part of a wider point which I'm going to make afterwards in terms of the overall quality of the squad as a whole. Not the first team necessarily, but the squad as a whole. I don't think is equipped to go far in the Champions League, but we'll come on to that. But as for the draw itself, certainly Juventus should be getting through.
Yeah, look, I think Bodo Glimt, Paphos are 6 points. I think Sporting and Monaco, that's 6 points too. That's 12. And then you're left with Benfica, Borussia Dortmund, Villarreal, and Real Madrid. If you assume that Real Madrid is just too much for Juve at this point, which I think it is, and Villarreal, Benfica, Borussia Dortmund, can they get 4 to 6 points from there? Then you're talking top 8. I don't think this is. I think it's a tricky draw, but I don't think it's absolute. I don't think it's impossible. Yes, Inter have 4 easy games, but they have 4 really tough games afterwards. Juve don't really have any 4 tough games. They have 1 or 2. One really, with Real Madrid. So I think Juve actually stand a chance to get into the top 8. I really do think that, and I think it's just because I think they have to be switched on, and Igor Tudor has to be able to balance playing Serie A and Champions League, and well, he shouldn't be at Juve if he can't do that. And I think qualitatively in the squad, I don't think Juventus' squad is inferior to Monaco, Sporting, Villarreal, or Borussia Dortmund. I'd say with Borussia Dortmund, maybe they're kind of close, but the rest, no. I don't think they're inferior to them. So I think you can argue it both ways, but I'd much rather have it like this than play Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Arsenal, like Borussia Dortmund as a tricky at the end as well. No, I think this is a good draw. I think Juventus have a good shot in finishing top 8.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, as for the squad, again, just Arik Milik being left out, that's the only kind of noteworthy omission. But is it even noteworthy now? I mean, the guy hasn't played for 18 months. I mean, it's just become a bit of a joke now. And this Milik stealing a living, literally. Arik Milik is probable 11. So at the moment, we are looking at Di Gregorio in goal, then back three. It's going to be a 3-4-2-1. Will be Gatti right centre back, Kelly left centre back, Bremer centre back. Then Kalulu playing out of position, a right wing back, and Cambiasso left wing back. Then in midfield, the two centre midfielders, Locatelli and Khephren Thuram. And then the two behind the one will be Yildiz and Conceição, but there's also options of Zegrova as well. And then up front, there are three options. There's Openda, who's just been signed. There's Dusan Vlahovic, and then there's Jonathan David. And really, kind of none of those three are really, locked on. So a lot will depend, and we'll see if maybe the system gets tweaked a little bit to maybe a 3-4-1-2 sometimes, or there's winger options there. So there's options in it. There's options in attack for sure, which brings us on to the strengths, because Juventus' strengths is they have a lot of options in the attacking positions now. Those names I just mentioned. There's quality there. There's goals in that attack. So I think that has to be a strength. If they can get the supply to them, I think there's goals there. So that's a strength. Look, Juventus have had a good start to the season. So we're recording this before the Derby d'Italia, so that obviously can change a lot one way or the other after that for both Juventus and Inter. Juventus's spirit and organisation seems to be getting a little bit back more towards what it should be under Igor Tudor. That completely disappeared under Thiago Motta. The Juventus were just so flat all the time under Motta. There was just no life in them, and Juventus they never looked like that they could react or mentally seem to be right under Thiago Motta. There never seemed to be any feeling between Motta and the team and the squad. Tudor seems to have, he understands the club, having been a player there. He seems to have brought back some spirit, seems to have brought back some organisation, some desire. So that's something I think that they need to build on. And then I think also, they've got, through the spine of the team, they've got three really top quality players. They've got Bremer, assuming he can get back to his best. He started the season pretty well, get back to his best after his ACL and stay fit, most importantly. They've got a fantastic, maybe, before his injury, before his ACL, maybe the best centre-back, maybe the best centre-back in Serie A, certainly top three. And Khephren Thuram, who I think is top three centre midfielders in Serie A now as well. And then you've got Yildiz, who I think, we're going to come to after. I think it's going to be a breakout season for him this season, maybe in the hopefully in the Champions League as well. So you've got three really strong players. If they can always be playing at their best, they can always offer something special in each of those departments. So I think that needs to be taken as a positive as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said all the positives I wanted to mention. I think there's depth, defensive solidity. You have a leader in Bremer if he can stay fit. I think Igor Tudor is a cunning coach. I think he's got that kind of smartness about him.
I thought you were going to say something else there when you said cunning.
No, I think he's cunning. He's a bit of a
cunning coach.
Yeah, I think he is a bit of that as well, but in the good way, in the sense that he knows how to, like, he's got this kind of old school Juve about him, and he knows what it means. What?
Got an edge. It's got a bit of an edge to him.
Yeah, he does, and I think he might not be a tactical genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's a solid coach who understands that sometimes you have to be smart and you have to not make mistakes and then capitalize on your opponent's mistakes, which is very typical Juve, and Juve are the best Juve coaches. So I think he knows he's got what it takes. But again, weaknesses for me, the depth of midfield is ridiculous. I think Locatelli, as much as I like him, and I think he's a decent player, is he good enough to be a starter at Juve? And I don't think he is. Weston McKennie does a job. Is he good enough to be a starter at Juve? No. The only player in midfield that Juventus have that is da Juve is Khephren Thuram. And that's a problem.
And it's incredible because even when we did our Serie A preview for the season and we were discussing the midfield, both of us, including me, completely forgot about a centre midfielder. And that really sums up his Juventus career so far, that we are forgetting a player, a midfielder that Juventus paid 60 million, and we haven't even mentioned him. You've forgotten about him now as well, which says everything, because I forgot about him in my Serie A preview, and that is Tune Koopmeiners. We haven't even mentioned him. That is what the hell has happened. Do you know what I mean? So we'll see. I mean, we'll see if he can be somehow,
rehabilitated. As they say.
I mean, doesn't look good. I mean, he was okay. He was okay in the Atalanta game in pre-season. That was the best. That was the first time I saw him. Thought, maybe there's something to build on. But yeah, they need him to be rehabilitated, because we were right. If not, then you're looking at this centre midfield and you're just thinking, there's not enough depth, and it's all on Thuram. And Thuram can't play 50 games a year at a high level and be available, be fit. And as soon as Thuram is unavailable, or he has a dip because he's playing too much, or he just has a bad game, which is going to happen to Nima again, then what happens to the midfield? I would also add the defense. There's not the depth in defense.
I think the defense is solid, but I do think that Bremer, a lot hangs on Bremer. If he's injured, I think Juve could be in trouble in Europe.
Yeah. You're going to get injuries. You're going to get suspensions, especially with Juventus's injury record with this current regime in the last few years. I use the word regime there. I use that when I want to be negative about something.
It's your equivalent of that woman for me, or that man.
Yeah, regime. Yeah. Now you see it on the news. Whenever they're talking about a country that's like they don't like, or it's one of the other countries.
The regime.
The regime. They'd always discover they called the government a regime. It's like the Russian regime, or the Iranian regime. The Israeli government, though.
Exactly.
One of them. But anyway, let's not go there. The defense for me, there's no depth because Kalulu is being forced now to play right wing back, because Juventus didn't do the job of buying a right wing back in the transfer window, especially in those final days when they wanted to try and get someone. They tried to get Jonathan Klaus on the deadline day, didn't manage to do it. Because of that, they've had to move Kalulu to right wing back, which means now the three centre backs that I said are their only three centre backs. Then it's Garganese is the first choice backup. Cabal is coming back from an ACL. He's back in training, so hopefully he will be back. But again, he's coming from an ACL. He's going to need time. So they're too thin, way too thin at centre back and in centre midfield. So that's the worry. But in attack, there is depth. Also at wing back, not enough depth. I mean, Cambiasso is out for the Derby d'Italia. So now it's either Filip Kostic, who, is not really...
You talk about people we've forgotten about, Filip Kostic.
Yeah.
But I actually think that's a good thing. I think he could be a little bit of a kind of a wild card for Juve. I think Kostic is one of those players that, if you play a wing-back system, he's going to deliver. He's a good crosser. You know that. He's going to deliver assists. set pieces and stuff and crosses. So, he could be a wild card for Juve. But I agree with you that it's not exactly encouraging, to put it mildly.
No, it's not. And also for this Derby d'Italia, instead of going to Kostic, Juventus are going to another player out of position in either João Mario going to the left or McKennie, our friend Weston McKennie.
But he's done well at wing back, McKennie. So he's done.
Yeah,
decent,
we're talking levels here. We're talking levels, and that doesn't win you the Scudetto. Okay, we're not talking about the Scudetto, but it doesn't get you too.
It could win you the Scudetto, but yeah. I mean, the Scudetto, I'm sorry, but after having watched, I've seen players win the Scudetto in positions that, it's not the Serie A we grew up with, Carlo.
No, well, yeah, I guess sometimes we do need to take that into account. Yeah, certainly at Champions League level, no, certainly at Champions League level. So yeah, predictions though for Juventus.
I think it hinges on where they finish in the league stage. I think Juventus have a good shot at getting into the top 8. Given the matches they've got. And if they do that, I think they get to the quarterfinals. If they finish in the top 24, I think the round of 16 will be where they end up, where they go out.
I see. I think last 24, and then maybe if they get a really good draw, like if they can be seeded for that.
Well, that's I'm
draw,
definitely
then you
thinking they're going to be seeded.
Yeah, if they're seeded, then you hope they can get a good draw. But sometimes you just don't know. Look at PSG. PSG finished, 23rd last year or something? So you just don't know sometimes. I think Real Madrid were unseeded as well for the knockout draw. So sometimes you just don't know who you're going to get. But if they get a decent knockout draw, first round, then they can maybe get into the last 16. I can't see them getting past the last 16. And the reasons that is not that I think their first team is okay. I think their first team, if well set up and everyone, the good players are on form, I think that they can be, they can have their say. But it's just, we know what it's like. You're going to get injuries. You're going to have suspensions. Players are going to get tired. You're going to play 3 games a week. Juventus, once they bring in a Rugani or they bring in, Kostic at left wing back, or João Mario has to play right wing back, or Thuram's out of the team, or Yildiz is out, or Bremer is suspended. Or I'm sorry, but they're not. It's just not going to happen for them. So I think that's the issue. So I'm going to say last 24. And hope that they can go a little bit further.
No, I think anything less than last 16 is it would be a disaster for Juve. I think we can demand that from Juve. But the question mark is if they get to the 24, then they'll be seeded and they'll probably do well there. But can they finish top 8? Then we're talking potentially even a quarterfinal. But again, it's the luck of the draw. It's not this. We have to understand that this is not about how good they are. Are Juventus amongst the 8th best team in Europe? Of course not, qualitatively. No one in their right mind would say such a crazy, stupid thing. But we're talking about we're talking about the draw and where they finish, and given this draw of the league matches, the league stage, and so on. So I think it depends. I can see them in a perfect situation reach a quarterfinal. Yes, I can.
Okay. Right. What we're going to do now is we're going to do Champions League predictions for the entire season. Okay. I'm going to read out the category. Then you give your answer and I'll give mine straight after. First of all, I want to start off just for the sake of, because we're going to do a segment of this on social, just for the sake of
I love how you always say that. We're doing this for the social, like as if
you know why I do it?
Accentuate, as if like yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm doing it so that you don't, so that you give short answers and not waffle
no, I get
on.
That.
Waffle on.
I love how you always say that, like as if like introducing something like this is what
velocity.
I love when you go Mr. Burns. I love when you go full on Mr. Burns.
Right. Okay. Let's start off with the Italian teams, where they're going to finish in the Champions League. We've already done this, but we'll do it again. So starting off, where will the following teams finish? Napoli.
Semi-final.
Quarter-final. Inter.
Round of 16.
Round of 16. Atalanta.
Round of 16.
Last 24. Juventus.
Round of 16.
Last 24. Overall winners of the Champions League.
Ooh, this is tricky. This is really tricky. Barcelona I wanted to say Barcelona, but it's a World Cup year. And I think a lot of those Spain players are really gunning for that World Cup.
Oh, right, okay. Thought you were going to say something else there.
Yeah. So, no, no, I'm not. No, I think the World Cup is...
Yeah,
if you know, you know. No, I think it's... had this not been a World Cup year, I would have said Barcelona. I think this is the Lamine Yamal show. Football is now the Lamine Yamal show. But having
I'm going to go... Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, you go first. I need some
I'm going to say Barcelona. I think they're going to be hungry after last season. They went close. They've gained that little bit of experience. They're going to push on and try and win it this season. So Barcelona for me.
I'll say, you know what? I'll say Barcelona too. I think the quality has to pay off. I think Lamine Yamal is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Best player.
Yeah, we've already mentioned him. This is the new poster boy of football, Lamine Yamal.
Lamine Yamal, yeah, absolutely. The only way I think he can destroy his career is if he goes off the rails, kind of, and he already is starting to kind of socialize like a Brazilian a little bit. So if he does something like that, nightclubbing and all that kind of stuff, women and everything else, then yeah, maybe that could bring him down. Top scorer.
Lamine Yamal.
Okay. Harry Kane. Breakout star.
I hope it's one of
pick an Italian one. Go on, but not the one that I
look. No. I hope it's one of the. It's one of the Yildiz, the Sucic, one of these guys. I'll go with Petar Sucic. But not too much, because then Real Madrid will come with 120 million and buy him next summer. But which is that's how I feel this is gonna go. But yeah, I think Petar Sucic will impress people.
I'm gonna go Kean Yildiz. I do.
I mean, one of those two.
I do think he's gonna break out this season. Yeah. Whether or not that will be enough for Juventus to be successful is another thing. But we'll see. Flop team of the tournament.
I think Liverpool. I don't see them going far in this tournament. I think people. Really? I think they've spent a lot, and I think when the pressure is on, and all, I think it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what you mean by flop. What is a flop for Liverpool?
I think you have to make it relative to the team that you're calling for flop. So for Liverpool, a relative flop would probably be last 16, or
would quarterfinal be a flop?
Potentially, depending on how they play, who they get knocked out to. Yeah, potentially could be.
Yeah, let me put it to you this way: I don't think Liverpool make it to the semi-final. Whether or not that's a flop or a disappointment, I don't know. I've never been too convinced by this Liverpool side anyway. I thought Arsenal were the best team in the Premier League, and the fact that they didn't sign a striker is why they didn't win it. Having said that, they've had a fantastic transfer window. So yeah, no, I think it's difficult, but it's difficult to say. It depends on, like you said, you have to quantify what is a flop. Is a semi-final okay? I mean, Arsenal reached the semi last year. Will they make it again? I think maybe. City. I mean, it depends on the draw. No, I don't know. I think it's difficult, but I'll stick by my conviction, and I say I don't think Liverpool make the semi-final of the Champions League. If that's a flop, then so be it.
Okay, I have two teams that I think could be potential flops this season. First is Newcastle. I don't like how they've spent their money, how they've spent their Isak money at all. They spent 85 million on that German Peter Crouch, Voltemada. I mean, ridiculous amount of money. I'm not 100%. Yeah, I'm not 100% convinced on them. And also Atletico Madrid. I don't like their transfer business. They not look good so far this season. They haven't won in their first 3 games. I look at their team and their squad, and I don't see a team that I see going particularly deep in this competition. Now, of course, there'll always be a handful. It's Simeone. There'll always be a pain in the butt to play against. But yeah, I'm not convinced by them. So yeah, Newcastle.
Who's your dark horse to win it? We have to have a dark horse. If anything, to have a dark horse to piss off Patrick Kendrick because it drives him insane when I use that term.
All right. Let me ask it to you then. Who's going to be the dark horse of the Champions League?
Napoli. I really believe in Napoli. I really think they can surprise. If the stars align, Conte could do something mad. Could do a madness here.
Yeah. Well, Patrick Kendrick says that you pick dark horse, so then whatever happens, you can then just claim it.
Because this is exactly why I do it, to piss him off now. For me, as I said when he was on, when you were away, I said
if they flop, well, they were dark horse. If they win,
no. The thing is with dark horses, it's one of those things where they're not the favorites by any stretch of the imagination. But if the stars align, they can have a perfect tournament. That can happen in football. But it drives him insane, and so I have to do it.
It does. He says it's a cop out, and it's
and it pisses him off.
He says it's cheating,
and it pisses him off, and that's why
I'll
do dark horses in every bloody tournament from now.
He says it's a way of making a prediction without actually putting anything on the line.
It's really not, because he agrees with my previous presupposition that but he just pisses him off, and I love to annoy him. I'm sorry.
I don't know dark horse.
Just like he loves to annoy me.
I don't know dark horse. I mean, maybe Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea is a good shout
because they won the Club World Cup and they beat PSG in the final
and the Conference League.
Yeah, so they built up some kind of experience of playing in kind of knockout kind of games. So yeah, I think they could be.
Yeah, I like that. I think Chelsea and Napoli are dark horses. I like that. That's what a dark horse is.
Right, just quickly, Europa League and Conference League. So first of all, let's do the Europa League. So it's Roma and Bologna that are in the Europa League this season. So I'm going to read out who their fixtures are against. So Roma have Nice away for match day 1. Bologna have Aston Villa. Match day 2, Roma at home to Lille. Bologna at home to Freiburg. Match day 3, Roma at home to Victoria Pilsen. Bologna away to Steaua Bucharest. Match day 4, we have Roma away to Rangers, and Bologna play against, where are they? Home to Bran. I always think of Game of Thrones when I see Bran. You've never watched it, so you won't know what I'm talking about. Right, Roma at home to Midtjylland, and Bologna at home to Red Bull Salzburg. Match day 6, Roma away to Celtic, and Bologna away to Celta Vigo. Match day 7, Bologna at home to Celtic. A lot of games against Scottish teams, isn't there, this year? So Bologna at home to Celtic, and Roma play against Stuttgart at home. And then finally, match day 8, Bologna away to the team that I won't name, and Roma away to Panathinaikos. Right. So, yes. What do you think? What do you think? They should both go through.
Absolutely. And I think Roma, I think Roma, I have Roma in the top 8, and I have Roma as one of the favorites to win this tournament, together with Aston Villa. I have high hopes, not just because Gasperini not just because of the squad, but also the Gasperini factor. He knows how to win in Europe. He's won this competition before. They're looking really good already. So I have really high demands or expectations of Roma. Nottingham Forest, of course, Premier League clubs will always at this level be very important, and as will the Spanish team. We know that Real, even though maybe not on paper they're the best, but compared to the other Spanish teams, but we know that Spanish football always does well in Europe. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm looking at listen, first of all, I think both teams will go through. I don't see Bologna going particularly deep because, as we said in our Serie A preview show, I don't like Bologna's transfer business. I think they've downgraded. I don't like how they've replaced Boukma and Undoy, bringing in like Bernardeschi and Immobile, who might actually help a little bit with experience in Europe, but like they're past their best players. And so I don't like where Bologna, and I think that will stop them going to far in the knockout rounds. So if I'm going to predict where Bologna are going to get to, maybe last 16, last 24, last 16, something like that, maybe.
I expect both Roma and Bologna to finish in the top 8.
Oh, really?
I do. Okay. I do. I do. And
I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
But I do think I expect Bologna to get to last 16 quarterfinal, somewhere there. Roma, semi-final at the very least. Otherwise, I'll be very disappointed if they don't make it to the semi-final.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think Bologna should be aiming for quarter-final at the least. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, I'm looking at the quality of the squads, and it isn't a really quality Europa League. I mean, people made fun last year of like Tottenham, how they won the Europa League playing basically nobody the entire tournament. They beat nobody to get to where other than Man United, like the worst Man United team in like over half a century. You know, so that's the only team they beat that were any good in the whole tournament. So, you know, I'm looking at it, and the English teams are Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. You know, of course, they're probably going to start as favourites against Roma, but Roma can beat them. It's not one of the top teams, you know. It's not even a Man United or a Tottenham, if you like, in terms of as a club, that is, although they are top teams. And then the Spanish teams are Real Betis, Celta Vigo. The German teams are Stuttgart and Freiburg. The French teams are Lille and Lyon. Then you've got Porto, who are dangerous, of course. Nice are there. Feyenoord.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a really difficult tournament, is it? It's not, you know, so it's possible. It's possible that Roma can aim to try and go all the way. I agree.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa that might be a bit tricky, I think.
And the Spanish teams beat us.
Yeah, this is why, I mean, as I said just before, the Spanish teams always do well in Europe, as we've seen. And regardless if it's Betis, Celta Vigo, who it is, Athletic Bilbao, whoever it is, they always go far. So we can't discount them. But yeah, I have very high hopes and high demands and expectations of Roma, no doubt.
Yeah. Right, Fiorentina. So they've got in the Conference League again. But
they actually have a tricky, not tricky, but they're not playing furniture stores. Like,
okay, well, let's see. Let me read through them. So they've got Sigma Olomouc, match day 1.
Czech
They
Republic.
have
Rapid
Vienna on match day 2. Mainz, match day 3, away. AEK Athens, match day 4 at home. Dynamo Kiev, match day 5 at home. Lausanne Sport, match day 6 away, and that's it. There's only 6 match days, isn't there? In the Conference League rather than 8. So yeah, that's the fixtures they've got. I mean, listen, I expect Fiorentina to go through. I think we've really seen Moise Kean explode. He's really exploding into a top player. What the hell, again, were Juventus thinking, getting rid of him? I was against that transfer. I hate to say this again. I know I keep repeating myself. I was against that transfer last summer. I said at the time, Juventus are going to regret big time letting him go. And he's honestly, it's not often I say this about an Italian player because I'm always a little bit cautious. He really is. He's developing into a striker that could play for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. He is. He really is.
I agree. And it's so cool to see because I didn't, who would have thought? And it happened under Palladino. Now let's see if Pioli can get him to take that next step. But yeah, I have to say I'm really impressed by Moise Kean, however you want to pronounce his name.
I mean, can he play for one of the biggest clubs in Europe? Moise Kean, is he good enough? I mean, for me, he seems to have quite a complete game in the sense that physically he's an absolute monster physically. Like he's so strong. There's few players in the world that have the physical strength, and he's only 25, so he's still gonna get stronger. He's like Romelu Lukaku. Defenders just bounce off him. Big defenders bounce off him. He can hold the ball up really well with his back to play. He links up interchanges really well, like even with players that you wouldn't expect him to, like Rettich, for example. Good link up, good 1-2s, good, so he's got good movement. He's incredibly, for the modern game, aggressive, presses, wins that ball up. He's a bit like Osimhen. Like I remember you used to describe Osimhen as this guy that he's always on the defender's back. He's a real pain in the backside. I would say he's very much like Osimhen in that sense as well.
He's very dynamic and his movement never stops, and he's always constantly sniffing. He's got that kind of one thing that he has developed is his sniff, knows how to sniff out a goal, and I'm really impressed by that. I think I really hope for his. It's going to be interesting to see how Pioli manages to develop him this season. I like the fact that Fiorentina have gone the Italian route. Finally, a team in the top half of the Serie A who has. I would love it if, I think at least we can demand a semi-final from them. But Pioli winning the Conference League with Fiorentina would be so beautiful on so many levels. And yeah, I don't, the Premier League side is not Chelsea this year. It's Crystal Palace. Okay, the Premier League side will always be difficult. Rayo Vallecano, the Spanish side, will always be one of the favorites because of the quality they have. Mainz are not to be discounted entirely. But this is it. This is the chance. I really think Fiorentina, they have it set up for them to really go all the way. And it would be so beautiful if Pioli could kind of relaunch his post-Milan career with a European trophy for Fiorentina. I would absolutely love that.
I think you've said it. You look at the qualities in this competition. Crystal Palace are the English team. They're obviously going to be dangerous. They're a good team. But then, the Spanish team is Celta Vigo. Mainz is the German team.
It's Rayo Vallecano.
Rayo Vallecano. Mainz is the German team. Strasbourg is the French team. I mean, they're like Chelsea's satellite club. And, so it's again, it's AZ and decent. I mean, it's doable. Again, they can have a really good, easy run to the final if the draw opens up for them. And if Moise... what I want to say is, if Moise Kean continues the form that he's shown over the last year, Moise Kean has that ability to fire Fiorentina potentially all the way and win that Europa League. That how many finals is it they've lost in a row now? Two to West Ham and to Olympiacos, and then they got to the semi-final, didn't they, last year? So it's their fourth. We should rename the Conference League
the Fiorentina League. But the best name in all of Europe of a club is Lincoln Red Imps from Gibraltar.
Yeah.
The badge is an actual imp in front of a castle.
Yeah. Well, that's what's there. They actually sound like a team of imps from Game of Thrones, like a team of like weird creatures.
Lincoln Red Imps. I mean, that's just...
What exactly is an imp? It's like isn't
it like a
some
demon?
kind of goblin creature?
Goblin creature. Yeah.
Yeah. God, could you
Best
imagine?
name ever, Lincoln Red Imps.
I mean, there's some bangers, and I mean, look at this, Hamron Spartans. They're from Malta. I mean, some of these names, it's like you wonder whether they're actually real names.
Yeah.
Some of these teams, mad.
Yeah.
Drita. Who the hell are Drita? Like, honestly, never even heard of them. They're an Albanian team.
Yeah, but
anyway, I'll start
I'm sorry.
Before I offend
Lincoln
everyone.
Red Imps is the best name in all of Europe this season in all European competitions. I mean, Lincoln Red Imps FC. Go the Imps. Right. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it at that. So that is our preview show for the Champions League and a little bit about the. Oh, we haven't finished yet. We've got one more segment.
No.
Almost forgot. So just as a little bonus segment for the show, we are going to, I don't know if it's really, you'd call it a bonus. It's a bit depressing, really. But we're going to talk about Italy and the World Cup playoffs, because Norway thrashed Moldova 11-1 on Tuesday, which means that now it is absolutely 99% sure that Italy are going to be in the playoffs. In order to not go into the playoffs, we basically need a favour from the team that we won't name. We're not good. Put it this way, we can't win the group on goal difference anymore, because Norway's goal difference is it plus 16 on Italy now? which is
unless Italy score like 100 goals on Moldova as well.
Yeah, but they're not going to make up plus 16. The goal difference is gone. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So basically, yeah, it's going to be 99% Italy going to be in the playoffs. So of course, we're now looking ahead to the playoffs. So let me explain first of all how the playoff system works. The 12 group runners-up in the World Cup qualifiers from UEFA will go to the playoffs, along with the 4 best-ranked group winners of the 2024-25 UEFA Nations League. Now, if those group winners from the Nations League have already qualified through the World Cup qualifiers, it basically moves down to like runners-up, and then from the Nations League, and they end up getting access to the playoffs. So once those 16 teams enter the playoffs, there will be 4 playoff paths drawn, with 4 teams in each of the 4 playoff paths. The playoff matches will be, and I think this is the most ridiculous format ever, it's disgraceful. There'll be single leg semi-finals followed by single leg finals, and those will take place in March 2026. So what will happen is these 16 teams will be put into 4 pots. The 4 teams with the best FIFA ranking, so that Italy will be one of those for sure, will go into pot 1. And then, depending on your rankings, pot 2, pot 3, and then pot 4 will be those 4 leftover Nations League teams that didn't qualify from the qualification of the World Cup through UEFA qualification. The teams from pot 1 will meet those from pot 4, and the teams from pot 3 will meet teams from pot 2 in the semi-finals. The semi-final will be played. The semi-final will be played at home of the better placed team in the FIFA ranking. So that means that Italy will definitely play their semi-final at home, and then a draw will determine the venue of the final. So, assuming Italy win their semi-final, it's a draw. It's a 50-50 whether Italy play the final at home or play away from home. As I said, one-legged games. So 90 minutes, then extra time, then penalty shootout. Finally, the 2 winners from pot 1 versus pot 4 in the semi-finals will meet the 2 winners from pot 2 versus pot 3 in the final. So that's important. And the reason why that's important is it basically means that Italy can't meet any of the other pot 1 teams. So Germany, who at the moment have a realistic chance of being in the playoffs as well, Italy wouldn't be able to play Germany. So that's some relief. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you who Italy's possible opponents are. Because they will be in pot 1, their possible opponents in the semi-finals are currently Sweden, Northern Ireland, Moldova, or San Marino. And in the final, it's obviously difficult to know for sure now, because a lot can change, who comes first, who comes second. But at the moment, the possible final opponents would be Slovakia, Armenia, Scotland, Greece, Iceland, Georgia, Turkey, Serbia, North Macedonia, Wales, or Czechia. So, first of all, Nima, let's do semi-final. Sweden, Northern Ireland, Moldova, San Marino. Who do you want to play? Who do you want to avoid?
I don't mind any of those teams, because people say, oh, how can you say Sweden? Do you have any idea what a cluster F of a team Sweden is under Jon Dahl Tomasson? They literally just lost the other day to Kosovo. I mean, they are a mess defensively. He should never have been appointed. But Sweden, the Swedish media and everyone around the Swedish national team is obsessed with playing like Barcelona, even though they don't even have Girona technical ability in midfield. But instead, because they have so much attacking power, Elanga, Isak, Gyökeres, people seem to think that the rest of the team is that good. The firepower up front is fantastic, but the rest of the team is not good enough to play the kind of football they want. And Jon Dahl Tomasson is not defensively solid, and he's not good enough at this point. So at this level, in my opinion, I think he should never have been appointed. So Sweden are wide open, and Italy can. So Sweden, yes, they are. Sweden have firepower, as I said up front, but they're not impossible to beat. This isn't like when Sweden under Ventura played Jan Andersson Sweden, which was a tight, gritty, defensively organized team. Sweden are open. So I think, so I wouldn't mind playing Sweden. Obviously, I'd like to avoid them because, with all due respect,
Nima would rather play Sweden than San Marino, basically.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, of course, San Marino would be ideal because, but I'm just saying I don't think Italy should fear this Sweden under Jon Dahl Tomasson, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's, obviously on paper you want to avoid Sweden, but I'm saying this is a very beatable Swedish team because it is very wide open defensively.
Yeah, you still want to avoid them though. You don't know; they might change the manager.
If they change the manager, it's a different ballgame. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Sweden don't usually do that. It's not in part of Swedish football history to mid qualifier change the manager. They don't do that in Sweden.
And the final itself, who do you want to meet out of those teams? I'll read them out: Slovakia, Armenia, Scotland, Greece, Iceland, Georgia, Turkey, North Macedonia, Wales, Serbia, Czech Republic. Who do you want? Who do you want to avoid?
I want to avoid Serbia. I want to avoid Turkey. I want to avoid Greece. I want to avoid. No, I mean the rest.
I want to avoid Scotland. I think Scotland are very dangerous.
Yeah, Scotland are a good side as well.
They've got quality and they have players playing in Serie A and they know us.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want to avoid Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get the team I'd want to get is Armenia for sure. I mean, I would say North Macedonia, but like there might be a few. We might get triggered a little bit. But at the end of the day, look. Other than those two teams, I wouldn't want to play any of those teams away in a one-legged match. You really are at risk, and the problem is with Italy, and why I'm so fearful about qualifying. It's not just it's one-legged game. Anything can happen in a one-legged game, which I think is a terrible format. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that with something so big on the line that UEFA or FIFA have organised World Cup qualification playoffs with one-legged matches to get to the final, especially when they've expanded the World Cup to 48 teams, yet made it no easier at all for European teams to qualify. It's still only one team that qualifies from the group. It should be two. Then you get South America, which is an absolute joke of a qualification. What is it? 7 of the 10 teams qualify. I mean, what is the point of even having that qualification? An absolute joke. It's pointless. Absolutely pointless. That entire qualification, how many games they play, like 20 odd games or however many it is, and 7 teams qualify. I think one gets a playoff as well. One gets a playoff place. I mean, it's an absolute farce. Then in Europe, only one team qualifies. The second place teams have to go to a very, very dangerous one-legged semi-final, one-legged final, which you might be playing away. 4 days rest or 3 or 4 days rest between the two matches, where you might get an extra time and penalties, be exhausted for the second leg game, which you have to fly away to go and play. It's the most. I mean, it's just only UEFA and FIFA could come up with something so stupid in a 48-team World Cup. So that's ridiculous. But the other thing is the pressure. This is what I'm worried about the most with Italy. Is I just feel like it's become so much. So the players, the coach, everyone is under so much pressure because we've missed 2 tournaments in a row. We've had a bad Euros as well, which has made things even more difficult. We've changed coaches. This qualification campaign is already doomed, which is adding the pressure on already. And they don't have too many players to pick from. I just think that those players are just go into those games with it's just too much for them. I think it's become a big
it's become a mental block. Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say, do you remember how it was with England, the attitude around the England team before Southgate took over?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the Italy side now. Is a negativity in the air before the game has even started. And that is a worry. Italy have never been in this position before, as far as I can remember. Where you're almost going into every game with this negative energy around them, and it's harmful. And I think it took England forever to get rid of that. It took Southgate to bring in completely young players from scratch and just build from nothing. Italy don't have the depth that England do in terms of the youth that they can do that, because their young players don't play, whilst young players in England play in the Premier League. So I don't know how to address this. I do think that Gattuso, the fire he shows and the commitment he shows is important to get these guys fired up. But I do worry about the mental element of that. It's starting to. It's not just no longer just finishing having missed 2 World Cup. It's almost become like a self-fulfilling prophecy now that Italy will fail as soon as they put the Azzurri shirt on, which is insane to me.
I agree. I think you've nailed it. I think it is very, very good, very, very apt comparison. It's like England. The coaches get absolutely destroyed. They get in the newspapers with pineapples on their head and turnip head, and that's what's happening. Ventura, what was he? Spalletti. I mean, these managers all getting mocked. And then the players. I mean, it has become impossible, and we need to break that duck.
And I hope that Gattuso is the guy to do it. I really do. I hope, because at some point this has to stop. It's a weird situation. Italy have never been in this situation as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas other countries have more experience from it, but this is a new territory for Italy. And how do you break the evil cycle, the evil circle? I just hope that Italy can, just try to win the remaining games, end the qualifiers on a positive note, beat Norway at the end. And even if Norway win the group, at least you got something to build on. You know what I mean? To change the atmosphere around the team, the mental aspect of around the team, the negativity.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's leave it at that. Extra long show for you today. Previewing, well, lots of previewing. Final. Just will Italy qualify for the World Cup?
Yes, Italy will qualify for the World Cup. I think Italy will. Yes, I think they'll play. I don't care. I don't really care who they play in the semi-final, but I do think Italy will pull it together and get to the World Cup. I do. I really think so. If they can avoid Germany, then yes.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Let's hope so.
So you're not making a prediction, then, are you?
I mean,
you need to stop with this superstitious nonsense.
What do you want me to say? Okay, I think Italy will get to the World Cup. Yeah.
Ah, good.
Whether they'll play in the World Cup or not, we'll see. Yeah, Italy will make the World Cup. Yeah. The Cricket World Cup. Italy will make the Football World Cup. Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it at that. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. We will be back next week reviewing the return of the Serie A match day 3 and some big games, including the Derby d'Italia between Juventus and Inter.
And Champions League on Thursday, and a Q&A as well. So all patrons, please do remember to send in your questions via DM on Patreon.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.